Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. My name is Bryson Carver, and I'm still trying to recover. I know it's been overused, and I know that's the title of the show you're watching or listening to right now. That's the greatest weekend I've ever seen of football games. Ever. The games got better and better, and better as Saturday and Sunday moved on. Unbelievable. And what's crazy is I'm going to go backwards. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Bills and Chiefs game, then talk about Tampa and the Rams, the 49ers and Packers, Bengals and Tennessee. And then I'll finish the show discussing the Tom Brady retirement possibilities. I've got a theory on what I think is going to happen. I don't do conspiracy theories, obviously. I'm just saying what I think is going to happen with Tom Brady once it's all said and done. But first, let's start with one of the greatest football games I've ever seen. And it seems like I said that about 3 times this weekend. Because you had the defensive struggle on Saturday night. You had the insanity that happened in the Tampa Rams game. Al Michaels, the great Al Michaels, who called the game, said it was lunacy. I concur. It was insane. And then last night, you had one of the great quarterback duels we've ever seen. Ever. Because you're considering, I picked Buffalo to win, so I went 1-3 on my picks. So, the one I got right was San Francisco at Green Bay, and you best believe I'm going to get into that later in the show. But you had one of the great quarterback duels in NFL history. Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills versus Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. And you have a situation where Buffalo is down by a score of 26-21. And Josh Allen converts not once, but twice, including a 4th down and 13 to Gabriel Davis. Wait, timeout. Who breaks the ankles of the Kansas City defensive back, catches the touchdown from Josh Allen. They convert on the 2-point conversion, I believe, to Stephon Diggs. Right after Stephon Diggs just, laid out a streaker running out in the field right before the 4th down play. And so you got Buffalo up by 3. But there's just a tick. There's about a minute 54 left in regulation. We're like, that's Patrick Mahomes on the other side, man. This game's far from over. We had no idea. If you'd have told me, this drive coming up from Kansas City, this is going to be their second to last drive of the game, I'd have been like, oh, okay, so they're going to go down and score, and then Buffalo's going to tie it up with a field goal, right? Like, that's what's going to happen, or something like that is going to occur. Like, Kansas City's going to miss the extra point, and then like they did earlier, and Buffalo's going to drive down, tie it, and send it to overtime. Nope. That was Kansas City's second to last drive of the 4th quarter. Not of the game, of the 4th quarter. So anyways, Patrick Mahomes leads the Chiefs, bam, like that, all the way down the field in the span of 52 seconds. Capped off by a 64-yard pass to Tyreek Hill, who threw up the deuces. I was holding my breath that they were going to throw a flag for unsportsmanlike conduct for taunting, which, thank God they didn't. I think it's a dumb rule. I hope the NFL gets rid of it after this season. We saw it happen with Tom Brady and Sean Hockley, the head official, in the game before that. But Tyreek throws up deuces. Kansas City is up by a score of 33-29. We're like, it's going to be tough now, because Josh Allen at this point has a minute and, minute 2 seconds left. Minute 2 seconds left for Josh Allen, the Bills offense. Boom, 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 boom. Touchdown to Gabriel Davis with 13 seconds left, and we're thinking, it's over. It's over. 13 seconds left. Josh Allen hits Gabriel Davis for an NFL playoff record 4th time. No receiver, including, as Jim Nantz pointed out in the broadcast on CBS last night. And by the way, how good were Jim Nantz and Tony Romo once again last night? Outstanding. But as Jim Nantz pointed out, not even the greatest receiver who ever lived, Jerry Rice, did this. Gabriel Davis last night became the first receiver in NFL history to catch 4 touchdowns in a single playoff game. I remember Chase Claypool caught 4 touchdowns last season against the Eagles, but that was a regular season game. This is the playoffs. This is a whole new ball game. Gabriel Davis catches the touchdown from Josh Allen. 13 seconds left. The Buffalo sidelines going crazy. I'm sure everybody up in Western New York is going crazy. I'm going crazy. I'm like, what a game, right? But there's 13 seconds left. Kansas City does have all their timeouts. And they have this guy by the name of Patrick Mahomes. Ever heard of him? And my thing was, and I'll get to the sort of a strategy for Buffalo in the kickoff a little later when I talk about the whole overtime rules. So I'll save that for later. Let's just skip to the first play. So Pat hits Tyreek Hill on the screen pass. He picks up 19 yards. Then, as Travis Kelce said after the game, they're basically playing backyard football. There wasn't even a play called for Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce said, I'm just going to run to the open spot in the field. You hit me. Well, that's exactly what happened. Mahomes hit Travis Kelce for a gain of 25 yards down to the Buffalo 31. And Harrison Butker, he had his struggles last night, but he hit the big one. He hit the game-tying field goal from 49 yards out to tie it and send it to overtime. And so we go to overtime, and I tweeted this in real time. Whoever wins the coin toss is going to win the game. We had 25 points in the last 2 minutes of regulation. 25! That doesn't even make sense. That's like Madden rookie mode stuff. It's like you're playing like your sibling on Madden, and you got set on rookie mode where you can just like hit every deep pass down the field, and all the holes are wide open if you run the football. Like, that's what it was. That's what it was. By the way, how Eric Bieniemy is not getting hardly any consideration for a head coaching job, no idea, because that play to Tyreek Hill, beautifully designed. Point is, we go to overtime, and Patrick Mahomes goes boom, 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 hits Mecole Hardman inside at the 10-yard line, and on the very next play, hits Travis Kelce in the back right corner of the end zone for the game-winning touchdown to send the Kansas City Chiefs to a 4th consecutive AFC Championship game, and putting the final nail in my coffin for who would get to the Super Bowl. I had Tampa Bay and the Bills before the season. That's a wash. That's over. It's not going to happen, obviously. But I've got so many takes on that. I just had to kind of lay it out there and set it up. So let me start on the Kansas City side. So to me, and this goes to show you, I mean, what do we see left in the playoffs? All 4 teams left. The Cincinnati Bengals, boy, you ever think we'd be saying that? The Cincinnati Bengals, the Kansas City Chiefs, the San Francisco 49ers, the Los Angeles Rams, all 4 of those teams still have a shot to win the Super Bowl this season. All 4 teams have one thing in common. Either they have an elite, out-of-this-world quarterback, or an elite, out-of-this-world head coach. In the case of the Chiefs, they have both. They have both. They have the best quarterback in football. They have the best offensive coach since Bill Walsh. I saw a stat last night. I even posted it to my social media. I posted it to Instagram. By the way, if you're watching the YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook stream, you could see the links to my social media down there. Posted this to Instagram. I think I might have even tweeted it from SportsCenter. SportsCenter put out the stats that the Dallas Cowboys had 14. I hate to bring the Cowboys in this conversation and stain this up, but the Cowboys had 14 seconds left, before that infamous quarterback draw by Dak. They got 1 play. The Chiefs had 13 seconds. They got 3 plays and got into field goal range and tied the game. It goes to show you, folks, coaching matters. It matters, man. As great as Mahomes is, and I'm not here to take an ounce of credit for Mahomes, played exceptionally. I mean, again, those last 3 drives, it's like he was playing high schoolers out there. He made it look easy. That's when you know you're great, is when you make other people look silly and you make it look easy for yourself individually and for your teammates. But Patrick Mahomes going to Andy Reid, getting drafted in 2017, might have been the most unfair quarterback-head coach pairing. One of the most unfair quarterback-head coach pairings in NFL history. Seriously. because you got a playmaker at quarterback and you got a genius at head coach in regards to calling offensive plays. It's unbelievable. And as Andy Reid actually told Mahomes, Andy Reid, of course, told this to the press after the game, when there was 13 seconds left after Buffalo scored and went up by 36-33, Andy Reid went on the sideline and told Mahomes, when it's grim, you be the Grim Reaper. I'm like, man, that's a line. I'm fired up listening to that, so I can't imagine how Mahomes felt. But now let me transition to Buffalo. Again, the team that I picked to represent the AFC preseason in Super Bowl 56. Buffalo, you had a solid season. I will say that you went 11-6. It was an up and down regular season, but you got hot, won your last 4, won your division, and smoked your division rival last week, the New England Patriots. And it is official now. Josh Allen is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He is. He's top 5. When we talk about quarterbacks who have everything, Josh Allen has everything. He's got the best arm in the league. His accuracy has gotten better and better and better and better every year. He's probably the most physical runner at the quarterback position that I've seen since Cam Newton, which scares me a little bit because look where Cam Newton is now. But, Cam never at any point in his career, even his MVP year, was as accurate as Josh Allen is in year 4. I just hope Josh Allen doesn't get beat up and it shortens his career, or at least shortens his prime. But Josh Allen moves well, runs all over the place. They design runs for him. Arm, accuracy, leadership. He's got it all. He's got it all. And what do we know? I'm going to get into Aaron Rodgers later in the show. What do we know about the postseason? That cements your legacy. And while everybody in Buffalo, the Bills organization and Bills Mafia, one of the greatest groups of fans in sports, while they're devastated today, I'll tell you this. You're going to get 2 Super Bowls with that guy. Be patient. You're going to get 2 Super Bowls with Josh Allen. This very well may be the next Brady versus Manning rivalry. Very well could be the case. And here's the thing. You say, well, Peyton and Tom, I mean, that's really stretching it. Is it? Because Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were different quarterbacks in a different era. They were the best for what that era called for. Kind of statue, move in the pocket, of course. You can't be, completely stagnant in the pocket behind that offensive line. Accurate. You don't have to have a massive arm. Neither Brady or Manning did. Make the key plays. Bring the leadership to the table. Be accurate. Be coachable. Both Allen and Mahomes are. So to everybody in the AFC, including Cincinnati, who clearly has their guy in Joe Burrow, these are the 2 teams. These are the 2 teams that are going to dominate the AFC for the next decade. Joe Burrow is going to dominate the next decade as well. I'm just not sure if the Cincinnati Bengals are going to do the same because I still have major questions about Zach Taylor and the front office. But I'll get into that later when I talk about Cincinnati. So, Josh Allen, top 5. Top 5. Played, some have argued, hey, did he play better than Mahomes yesterday? Maybe. So let me get now to the overtime thing, because a lot of fans today are like, oh my goodness, Mahomes got the possession, won on a touchdown, and Josh Allen never got to touch the football. And everybody's all mad about that. I personally, and look, this is part of being a human, right? You evolve. You evolve your beliefs and your thoughts and how you look at certain things. And I've evolved in how I look at the NFL overtime. Because with the NFL, what people, the competition committee have said, we want to, after the 60 minutes are played, we hope there's a winner. If not, if it goes to overtime, get the overtime over as quickly as possible. Make sure nobody gets hurt. Because if that game was based off of, basketball overtime rules, game would have lasted like 5 overtimes, literally. And you think that's good for football? I mean, basketball players are drained and even injured sometimes after playing multiple overtimes. How do you think football's going to feel? In that weather, Arrowhead Stadium, probably below freezing, hitting each other constantly, both teams desperate to win this game, move to the next round. That's tough. And I think a lot of the complaints of not having overtime, Has a lot to do with the fact people don't like Kansas City. Same reason 3 years ago when Kansas City lost to New England in overtime in the AFC Championship game, and Patrick Mahomes never got to touch the ball, and Brady led the Patriots down the field. They won the game and got to the Super Bowl. People didn't like New England. So some of it, I think, is people just dislike the teams. But also what I would say is Buffalo, and I said this in real time. I wish I'd tweeted it, but I said this in real time watching the game with my dad upstairs where we watch all the games. I said, Buffalo, and because I've heard people say, they need to squib kick it. No. Kick it high. Pop it up at about the 5-10 yard line. Make Kansas City return it and bleed it down to 8-9 seconds left. Because then all Kansas City can do at that point is get a 25-yarder maybe to Kelsey or Tyreek and then throw a Hail Mary. Or whatever trick play they try to use. Maybe it's Andy Reid. Maybe he tries something weird. But no. We cannot have the overtime continue over and over and over. Because the way that game was going, that game was never going to end. Ever. And so for the Chiefs, for the Bills, what a game. Should the overtime rules change? I think no. Now remember, I talked about this when Pittsburgh and Detroit in the game, I think in November, went to overtime. And the game ended in a tie. I've always said I hate ties. I just want a winner. But I have no problem with the first team that gets the ball. Because look, Buffalo, get a stop. Get a stop. Even without Tre'Davious White, that's a great defense. Now, I get they're playing Mac Jones last week, but did you see what they did to Mac Jones last week? Now, Patrick Mahomes is, galaxies better than Mac, but just get one stop. You had 3. This is what people talked about when the Saints got screwed over in that pass interference call a few years ago against the Rams. And I said, that's not the reason they lost. It's a reason, it's not the reason. The Saints had 3 opportunities after that to win the game. In the case of the Bills, 3 opportunities. If you'd have stopped Kansas City after you took the lead with 2 minutes left, you'd have won the game. If you'd have stopped Kansas City with 13 seconds left, 13! Unlucky number 13, I guess. You'd have won the game. If you'd have stopped him in overtime, you're giving the ball back to Josh Allen. All he needs is a field goal. You'd have won the game. You had your opportunities. You just didn't take advantage. By the way, Kansas City had some special teams mistakes that the game should have never even came down to the last 2 minutes. Now, thank God it did because of what we got to all witness from there. That's my thoughts on it. We don't need a longer overtime. Guys are going to get hurt. Guys are going to be beat up. The winning team is going to be beat up going into next week, which would give Cincinnati a massive advantage. Get a stop. Just one. All you needed was one stop. You had 3 opportunities to get, to get one stop, including once with 13 seconds left. That's all you need. But that was one of the greatest quarterback duels that I've ever seen. This will be the next Brady versus Manning. Book it. Because what today's era of quarterbacks calls for, big arm, playmaking, accuracy, leadership, both guys are A-pluses in all of them. By the way, mobility. Did I bring up mobility? I don't know if I brought up mobility or not. Both guys move around great. Allen's slightly better than Mahomes, but you see how Mahomes dances around that pocket, finds guys open? Both guys are A-pluses in all the things that you need in 2022 to be a great quarterback. Plain and simple. All right, got quite a few comments here. My man Grady Edwards in the comments. He says, I'm really disappointed with a lot of the commentary by major media outlets and sports TV shows on the Brady retirement story. This clearly has nothing to do with his desire to play the game of football. It has everything to do with being there for his family. It cannot be easy for his wife to have him gone this much. Man can clearly play 4 more years easily. However, Brady is a person too, and he needs to be there to enjoy his kids growing up because the NFL takes a lot of commitment. That being said, I think next season is his last because everyone realistically wants closure with something they love, and I highly doubt yesterday was that for him. Thoughts? Well, I'm going to get into Tom a little later in the show, but I think you bring up good points. He does have a family. He does have kids. His wife Giselle wanted him to retire at 40. Okay, so this is 4 years due. I will save my theory for what I think will happen with the whole Tom Brady retirement or no retirement thing for the end of the show. So stick around, hang tight. I'm going to hit it head on. But you bring up some excellent points that some of which I was going to get into. So I appreciate you pointing that out. Grady agrees with me. He says overtime rules are perfect. Got to play defense. Only thing they should have changed about overtime is make it 15 minutes, not 10. Well, in the playoffs, it is 15 minutes. In the regular season, it's 10. I agree. Again, whatever you got to do to make sure it's not a tie. My thing is just play till there's a winner. Well, you don't have to worry about that in the playoffs. There's not going to be no ties in the playoffs, obviously. So, but I agree. Buffalo, you were a great defense all season long. You had 3 opportunities to get one stop, including once with 13 seconds left. And Grady says that makes no sense to me. Yep. Chris Hughes in the comments says overtime is where you see that CFL is better than the NFL. See, I don't know the CFL overtime rules, so if you could give me like a brief sort of overview of what the Canadian Football League overtime rules is. Now, if you're talking about overall, the CFL better as the NFL as a whole, I'd have to vehemently disagree with you. I think the NFL is the king of sports in America, at least. Heck, even in North America, arguably. Maybe soccer in South America is pretty popular, but you get where I'm coming from. But, I mean, what a game. What a game. I just spent the first 20 minutes of the show talking about one game. That just shows you how insane this weekend was. Insane. Greatest quarterback duel in the playoffs. Of course, the playoffs is where legacies are made. While I'm here, probably the best quarterback duel that I've seen. Grady says AB to the CFL. Well, according to AB, he's gotten some calls from teams. Now that very well might be true. I wouldn't rule that out at all. Not in the slightest, because talent will keep you in the NFL. Now, I hope that people don't have short-term memory about what happened in the Meadowlands against the Jets, stripping down and running off the field. But talent will keep you in the NFL. There's no question about that. But and it's so weird too. It's so weird too about Antonio Brown. Before the game, he posted a picture of him and Tom Brady, obviously from before the game. He said that good luck to Tom Brady. He put like hashtag Kumbaya. I'm like, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. And then after the game, he's celebrating the Bucs losing. I'm like, what? You're wishing your guy luck, the guy you said you weren't friends with just 2 weeks ago. And then now you're like thrilled that the Buccaneers lost. I don't get it. I don't get it. Chris Hughes explained the overtime rules. He said very similar to college, shootout style from the 35-yard line. Again, I'm not necessarily against that, but my thing is that that keeps the game going. It keeps the game going longer and longer and longer. Remember, and even the college overtime rules changed after this game. Remember when I think it was LSU and Texas A&M 2 years ago, and they played like 7 overtimes? It's like, man, somebody's gonna get killed out here. Like you can't do this. I mean, the game was like 5.5 hours long. You can't have, especially kids out here, at the time, not even getting paid out here playing this long. Even the NFL, you're getting paid millions, of course, but geez, these guys have bodies, and the winning team is going to have a game to play next week. So you want them as healthy as possible. So, it's like when Tim Tebow won the game on the first drive against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Pittsburgh fans were like, hey, why didn't Big Ben get the ball back? And my reaction was, you let Tim Tebow beat you in the first play of overtime, you deserve to lose, right? Same with Buffalo. You can't stop Kansas City with 13 seconds left. Josh Allen didn't deserve to lose, but the Bills' defense did deserve to lose. That's the thing. That's kind of what my mindset is about this whole situation. All right, so, all right, let's see if I can get my bearings after that. Let's move on now to the game before it, which was dubbed by me and everybody as the game of the year. The Los Angeles Rams taking on the defending Super Bowl champions, who will no longer be the defending champs in a few weeks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We will have a new NFL champion for this is the 17th straight season. 16th, 17th straight season, we'll have a new NFL champion. So, for the Rams, let's start at the beginning. For the Rams, they came out with the perfect game plan. Because their mentality, let's start offensively. They came out with the mentality like, look, Tampa's defense is legit. This was the first time since opening night against the Cowboys that all of Tampa Bay's defensive starters were healthy. Like their opening day lineup, this is the first time that all 11 of those guys have started together since opening night on September, I guess it was September 9th in Tampa Bay. And so you have a situation where, yes, Tampa Bay's defense is healthy. You do have Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul and Ndamukong Suh up the middle. But the weak link of Tampa Bay's defense is their secondary. I mean, it is. Jamel Dean's a decent player, and Mike Edwards, and I really like Antoine Winfield Jr., although he was, of course, the victim of that last play to Cooper Kupp, which I'll get to later. But this was a situation where Tampa Bay's defense, weak link is their secondary, and the Rams knew that. And the strong part of the Rams, as great as, and Cam Akers was almost turned into the GOAT, not the greatest of all time, but the scapegoat GOAT. As great as the Rams' running game is, let's attack where they're bad. Because we do have the triple crown receiver this year in Cooper Kupp. You do have Odell Beckham Jr., who, sorry, Cleveland, he can still play. And you do have Van Jefferson, who's an underrated slot receiver. And Tyler Higbee made some big catches on third down in that game yesterday. And so they attack him right off the bat. And defensively, that was what worried me about Tampa. This is why I think I picked the Bucs to win by a point yesterday. And I said, I'm only picking Tampa because of Tom Brady. That is it. Because the Rams had the better roster coming in. They had the healthier roster coming in. And playoffs in any sport, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, it's all about matchups. You can have as good of a team as you want. Matchups decide the outcome. And we think the Rams receivers versus Tampa secondary was a mismatch. Try a beat-up Tampa Bay offensive line against Aaron Donald and Von Miller. Constant pressure on Tom Brady through really the first 3.5 quarters of the game. Constant pressure. And so throughout the entirety of the first half, the Rams were just pushing Tampa everywhere. Tom had no time to throw. They couldn't take shots down the field. He was relying heavily on Gronk and on Tyler Johnson. I mean, it was a rough going for the Bucs offense in the first half. They should have went into the locker room down 27-3. Instead, they went in the locker room down 20-3 because Cam Akers, and this will become important later on, of course, as we all know, Cam Akers fumbled inside the 5-yard line. Tampa Bay recovered it after Tom had just thrown an interception before that, a bad interception, I might add. And so Tampa goes in the locker room. You'll take 20-3 over 27-3 any day of the week. The problem is the Rams just, a couple drives later, go right down the field, score a touchdown, and it's 27-3. And I'm telling you, everybody was texting during the game, buddies of mine and family members watching the game with me. It's like, it's over. I'm like, it's Tom Brady. Any other quarterback, I don't care if it's as great as he was yesterday. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, definitely. The great quarterbacks of the game. Game over. You're not coming back from 27-3. Not on that Rams defense. Not as much as that Rams offense is clicking. And Tom Brady came alive through the next quarter and a half. Got him down the field, kicked the field goal. People are like, why don't you go for it? You're down 3 scores. And I tweeted, I like the call to go for the field goal, make it 27-6. Because now you're still down 3 scores, but you don't have to go for 2 3 times. So I like the call, especially with that much time left in the game. And then end of the third quarter is where the whole game kind of flipped. Cooper Kupp fumbled. It's not something we've said much all year. Cooper Kupp fumbles. Tampa Bay picks it up. And at the end of the third quarter, they go right down the field in 10 plays. And in 7 plays. And playoff Lenny punches it in from the 1-yard line. And this is a 2-score game like that. And it's a different football game. Tampa Bay forces the punt. And then right off the bat, first play, Tom Brady gets strip sacked by Von Miller. Rams recover at the Tampa Bay 25-yard line. And we're thinking with start of the fourth quarter, they're already in Tampa territory. This game is a wrap. Like at that point, I was like, gosh, I know what I'll bet against Tom Brady, but this looks like it's about it. And on the very next play, the snap goes over Stafford's head. He's not looking for the snap. It goes right over his head, all the way out to midfield. It gets recovered by the Tampa Bay Bucs, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, they have new life. They literally were on life support, and they all of a sudden they're breathing. They're very much breathing. And so Tampa, they're driving yet again, and they turn it over on downs with how much time left? 12 minutes left. We're thinking, man, it's still looking kind of shaky, but it's not over yet. Still 2-score game. Rams drive it, get into field goal range. Wait a second. And from 47 yards out, Matt Gay, a Pro Bowl kicker, was short on a 47-yard field goal in perfect conditions. It was like 55 degrees in Tampa with hardly any wind, and he was short. And all of a sudden you're thinking, oh my goodness, Tampa is still breathing. And obviously they took a lot of clock right there, and Tampa drives it down again. And Tom Brady on 4th down misses Scotty Miller wide open. As Tom's biggest mistake of the game. Missed Scotty Miller wide open to pick up the 1st down. And we're thinking, gosh, not much time left. Rams chew some clock. They punt it to Tampa. It's a 2-possession game with time. 4 minutes left. 4 minutes left. Tampa is out of timeouts. We're like, yeah, that's it. A few plays later, Tom Brady hits Mike Evans on a bomb down the right sideline. Touchdown, 7-point game. We're like, oh my goodness, this is not over yet. And so for the Rams, it's all about this. Get the clock to, this is why I said, watching the game live, okay? There's like 3 minutes, 20 seconds left. Run the ball twice. If you get the 1st down, the game's over. If you don't, run the ball twice. Get the clock to the 2-minute warning. Don't give Tampa an opportunity to where they can stop the clock on an incomplete pass. And Cam Akers fumbles on the second play. You're thinking, Tampa's going to end up winning this. And I even tweeted this during the game. If the Rams lost that game yesterday, that would have been worse than the Atlanta Falcons' 28-3 collapse, infamous collapse. Because Atlanta, while they screwed up, especially in the 4th quarter, remember they got the long play to Julio, and then they had penalties and sacks that put them out of field goal range and gave Tom a shot to tie the game and send it to overtime. That comeback was more about Tom's greatness. It was. And Tom was great in the 4th quarter yesterday. He had his bumps, but he was great in the 4th quarter yesterday. But for the Rams, Cam Akers, fumble before the half, cost you 7 points. Cooper Kupp, fumble. Tampa scored on that drive to make it a 2-score game. Snap over Stafford's head, cost the Rams to possibly put the game out of reach in the 4th quarter. Matt Gay, missed field goal, keeps it at a 2-score game. And then Cam Akers fumble, and Tampa Bay picks up the 4th down. Not only do they pick up the 4th down, but play off Leonard Fournette, punches it in, ties the game with hardly any time left on the clock, with 42 seconds left in regulation. And Stafford gets sacked on the first play of that drive. We're thinking, this baby's headed to overtime, and if Tom Brady wins the toss, look out, because we're seeing Atlanta 28-3 all over again. And Matt Stafford stepped up. He did something that I didn't think he was capable of doing under immense pressure. Because again, we saw what happened with Kansas City and Buffalo last night. You don't know if you're getting the ball back. There is no guarantee. If you lose the toss, you're probably losing the game. And for Matt Stafford, hits Cooper Kupp, who gets out of bounds, and then Tampa brings an all-out blitz. I believe it was a cover 0 because Antoine Winfield was guarding Cooper Kupp, right? He wasn't just, he wasn't playing help over the top. He was guarding Cooper Kupp, so it's a cover 0, all-out blitz by Tampa, and Matt Stafford makes the biggest throw that he's ever made in his entire life to Cooper Kupp, the best receiver in football in 2021. Hits him with the bomb. I believe it went for a gain of 44 yards. They spiked it in plenty of time, and Matt Gay kicked the game-winning field goal from 30 yards out, sent the Rams to the NFC Championship game, sent the Bucs into the offseason. Wow. I mean, it's and I hear a lot of Brady defenders out there saying today, well, if Tom Brady could have gotten one more possession, and again, I will reiterate what I just said. The Atlanta comeback from 28-3 down was about Tom Brady's greatness. If Tampa Bay had won this game, Tom Brady's greatness would have came in the picture. And this is coming from a Tom fan. I love Tom Brady. I think he's the greatest athlete in the history of team sports. I've said that on many occasions. I said that win over Kansas City in the Super Bowl last year, ring number 7, that cemented him, in my opinion, as the greatest athlete in the history of team sports. In regards to what he's accomplished, the longevity, the records, we get the whole bit. Brady was great in the fourth quarter yesterday, as I detailed. But that had been about the Rams' collapse. And you could see Sean McVay just cover his mouth thinking, oh my God, we're gonna blow this. You can't tell me that what Sean McVay is a confident head coach. You can't tell me that when some doubt came into his head. You can't tell me. But you know what? This is what happens. And this isn't a shot at Tampa because Tampa's very aggressive, right? They brought back all 22 starters from their Super Bowl winning season a year ago. And I'm about to get in the comments in just a second. But the Los Angeles Rams, the most aggressive franchise in the NFL, paid off. They traded and got Matthew Stafford a year ago. And I said about Matthew Stafford and Carson Wentz, both were traded to perfect situations. Great offensive coach, great defense led by an outstanding defensive player, outstanding weapons, great offensive line. You better show up. Carson Wentz gagged. Matthew Stafford rose and shone. Made the 2 big throws. The first to Cooper Kupp to set them up in a good spot near midfield. And the second to Cooper Kupp, which basically won the game because set him up in chip shot field goal range, and Matt Gay knocked it through to send the Rams into the NFC Championship game. So you talk about the Matt Stafford trade. You talk about the Jalen Ramsey trade 2 years ago, right? And Jalen Ramsey gave up the big play to Mike Evans. I don't know what he's doing. Excuse me. I don't know what Jalen Ramsey's doing on that play. You can't give up anything deep down the field when the clock is on your side defensively. But so you have that. You go out and get Von Miller. You trade for Von Miller in Denver. And Von Miller's starting to look like Super Bowl MVP in 2015, Von Miller, right? So you get a pass rusher on the other side. Aaron Donald was a monster, as always, yesterday, constantly getting in the Tampa Bay backfield. And then, to top it off, you go out and get Odell Beckham Jr., who everybody was convinced, Odell is done. Odell's a win away from the Super Bowl and is a big reason that the Rams got here. He's a big reason the Rams got here. Simple as that. Made that catch against Arizona last week. Made some big plays in general against Arizona last week. And then yesterday, although he wasn't a huge story, Cooper Kupp was the story, and rightfully so. I think he had over 180 yards receiving. He was incredible. You double Cooper Kupp, you're going to stop Odell. And so this is what you get when you're aggressive. You're in position to go win the Super Bowl. And in the case of this season, in position to win a Super Bowl, like the current defending champs, in your home stadium. Literally, win 2 games at home, and you're Super Bowl champions. Wow. That's what I had that game. I had to sit back. I'm like, okay, we got to watch Buffalo and Kansas City after that. Incredibly, Buffalo and Kansas City topped it somehow, but it did. But wow. Okay, got a lot of comments here. Let's see. Chris Hughes talking about my Tim Tebow drive that I mentioned earlier. He said the Tebow OT drive was legendary. It wasn't even a drive. It was just one pass over the middle to a wide open, God rest his soul, Demaryius Thomas, and they won it. Grady says, to each their own, but I think college football OT rules are a disaster. I don't like it because it isn't simple. The NFL is the better product ever. So in my opinion, it's a college football because of the OT rules are simple. I prefer the 6 playoff format, 16-game season, 2 first-round byes. However, I doubt they would ever go back to that completely. Do you think they would consider going back to 6 playoff teams? No, I don't think so. Thus far, we haven't had a 7 seed, which is, was introduced to the playoffs last year. We haven't had a 7 seed win a playoff game. And frankly, when you look at it, only one 7 seed has been competitive, and that was the Colts against the Bills last year in the wild card game. But no, I don't see them going back to it. Matter of fact, I even heard Richard Sherman, who's, I think, a pretty prominent member in the Players Association, say that it was likely that the NFL was going to, in a few years, go to an 18-game regular season, which sounds like you're really pushing. I thought 17 was risky. 18 is like, golly, that's a lot. Grady says, considering how good the games are this weekend versus how bad Philadelphia and Pittsburgh looked last week. Exactly. That's a tough part about it. Although if the improbable had happened, and it almost did, had the Raiders and Chargers tied 2 weeks ago, then the Chargers would have been in the playoffs. I believe the Raiders would have played the Chiefs. And this just me. I think the Raiders would have put up a better fight against Kansas City than Pittsburgh. I know they got smoked twice, but you get one more crack at it against your division rival. They wouldn't have won, but I think it would have been a more entertaining game. Those teams do not look like playoff quality teams. We don't need matchups like the NBA in the playoffs with the NFL. Yep. And Chris says, I'm with you on that, Grady. Games last week show the difference between a good team and a playoff team. 2 different things. Grady says, do you think Tampa Bay should have gone for 2 instead of taking the extra point in the last possession? I thought the Rams were going to play for overtime in that last possession. Tampa Bay's defense lacked the sense of urgency that that last possession, because I think they thought they were going to play for overtime. You very well could be right about you're very right about how the Tampa defense might have been thinking they are playing for overtime. But after the long play to Cooper Kupp, you had to know, if you're Tampa, okay, they're trying to win this game. Like, they don't have any timeouts. We got to play the sidelines. We cannot give them the middle of the field. I'm not going to bash Todd Bowles for sending the blitz, because he did that a lot in the second half, and it worked. He got pressure on Stafford. So, as they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it worked out early in the game. My issue was that there was so much space over the middle of the field, so much green grass that they gave up, or at least that deep, at least. Should have played it similar to how the 49ers played the Cowboys last week. And you asked if I thought Tampa Bay should have gone for 2. No, I think if you've got the momentum, you're at home, the Rams are kind of reeling, take the extra point, hope that your defense can get a stop with 42 seconds left, go to overtime, and hope you can win it. I mean, I think all of us would have given Tampa Bay the edge had that game gone to overtime. I think even if the Rams had gotten the ball first after winning the coin toss. I mean, you blow a 24-point lead in, like that, and the way you did it with turnovers and missed field goals and bad snaps and all of that, Tampa Bay would have the momentum. So don't kill any chance you have at that. I think going for 2 when you score a touchdown down 7, it's all about the flow of the game. This is why I defended John Harbaugh going for 2 twice against Pittsburgh and Green Bay, right? Your defense cannot get a stop in both of those games, and you just need to steal one. You don't like your chances going overtime. You're kind of reeling a little bit. You're not riding a ton of momentum going into overtime. If that were to happen, go ahead and go for the win right now. In this case with Tampa, it's like you've got the whole NFL world at this point thinks you're probably going to win the game, which is insane considering how the game had played out. But that's kind of my thoughts on it. And Grady says, dude, you're absolutely on point with how aggressive they are. Look at Tampa Bay last year. They were signing everyone left and right, and it paid off. Rams are very similar this season. And that's the thing. You can't play this safe and win a championship. Seriously, name one. I mean, even we talk about, like in the NBA, like the Milwaukee Bucks last year winning the NBA Finals. And people are like, well, it's a small market and they didn't sign any big free agents. People forget that they went out and got Drew Holiday. And how big was Drew Holiday in those NBA Finals? You have to be aggressive. Of course, you got to have the superstars to begin with. And the Rams are not exactly short on superstars. Me, I was worried about their depth. And by the way, Andrew Whitworth, 40-year-old left tackle, was out yesterday. And I thought his replacement did a fairly good job, at least in the first half. Tampa Bay, again, because of those blitzes that Todd Bowles brought, did get some pressure on Stafford in the second half, but I think it's really interesting. And Grady says those little acquisitions will make a difference. Boy, will they. I mean, just Von Miller alone. Just Von Miller alone. Look at the impact he made on that game. Seriously. I mean, what if, I know the Rams missed the field goal. Or I'm sorry, I know the snap went over Stafford's head on the very next play after Von forced Tom Brady to fumble. But what if he doesn't? What if he doesn't get pressure? What if Von Miller's not a Ram today? And whoever his replacement would have been doesn't force Stafford or Brady to fumble. Maybe Tampa Bay goes down and scores, and maybe they win the game in regulation. I mean, that's the thing. That's what those key players making those key plays means. That's what it means. That's how important it is to have those key guys to go win a championship, and it's crucial, man. It's crucial. All right. Now, connection isn't great in the stream right now. I apologize for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for the Aaron Rodgers topic. I'll wait for that for just a second. Let me get into the Bengals-Titans game. Are we getting the connection back right now? Let's see. I'm going to wait for this because this is I want to. Okay, connection's back on. Connection's back on. Thank you very much for hearing me, StreamYard, because I want to tackle this one. So as I talked about earlier, I only went 1-3 on my picks. I should have went 2-2 because of the Bills last night, but it is what it is. All 4 games came down to a walk-off play, which is awesome. The one game I got correct was actually my upset of the week and if I were a betting man segment. That was the San Francisco 49ers beating the Green Bay Packers by a low score of 13-10. And everything except for one thing, everything I said would be the end of Green Bay's season came to fruition. Cheeseheads, Aaron Rodgers apologists, I told y'all what was going to happen. This team was going to be like a Duke and Kentucky freshman. They're going to show up to the playoffs, and they were going to leave immediately. One and done. Out like that, without a single playoff win. Because I thought all of the teams in the NFC, even the Eagles, matched up well with Green Bay. I talked about earlier with the Tampa and Rams game, playoffs are all about matchups. And I want to focus on one individual, and y'all know exactly who I'm about to talk about. Aaron Rodgers. Now, let's just say that Aaron Rodgers had about as eventful of an 8-9 month span with the Packers and just in general with the NFL as any player has ever had. And, what I've always not liked about Aaron is the excuses, blame deflecting, lack of accountability, and lack of showing up in the postseason, which I will get to in just a second. But let's go back to April. April, on draft day, by the way, day of the first round of the NFL draft in 2021, Aaron Rodgers asked for a trade. He asked out of Green Bay. And pretty much ghosted the known world. Now, he didn't ghost the Packers. He didn't ghost the NFL. He kind of just ghosted the known world. All we really saw of him was him in Hawaii, skipping OTAs. Where is Aaron? Is Aaron even going to play football this season? Might he retire? We have no idea. Throughout the summer, he does very few interviews. I remember one specifically he did with Kenny Mayne on SportsCenter. I believe it was Kenny Mayne's last SportsCenter. And he's wearing these cryptic T-shirts because he doesn't want to say what's on his mind. He wants his T-shirt to do the speaking. He eventually shows up for Packers training camp in late July and goes for 30 minutes bashing the organization. And again, I will apologize once again, as I did a few months ago. I apologize for siding with Aaron Rodgers during that press conference because it was BS. Talking about the organization hasn't put enough help around him. I'll get into that later in this segment. So take shots at the general manager, take shots at the upper management in general, which is funny because that same upper management who helped you get to back-to-back NFC Championship games They weren't a problem then, so why are they all of a sudden a problem now? Blame deflecting, lack of accountability. We fast forward into November, the infamous vaccine controversy, where Aaron Rodgers tests positive for COVID, and I, along with pretty much everybody, thought, okay, he's just going to be out a short time. We assumed he was vaccinated. Why did we assume he was vaccinated? Well, because he was doing in-person press conferences, because he wasn't wearing a mask on the sideline. Both are protocols during an NFL game and during an NFL season. If you speak to the media, it's either got to be on Zoom, or if you want to do it in person, you got to be wearing a mask. On the sideline, if you're not playing, you got to be wearing a mask. That's the NFL protocol, has been since 2020. Aaron didn't do either of those things. We're assuming, oh, well, he's vaccinated, right? Nope. Lied to the NFL. And the Packers covered for him because they're like, okay, we got to kind of walk on eggshells for Aaron. You don't want to piss off Aaron. Let's cover for Aaron. Gets exposed. Aaron misses one game, the Kansas City game. Jordan Love looks terrible, and the Packers lose the game 13-7 in a defensive struggle. So he comes back, and he talks about, oh, I've been silenced, and I've been canceled by the woke mob. Yeah, you're canceled. I see you on every single State Farm commercial. And you've been silenced. Yeah, you did a 28-minute phone call with ESPN. I've been silenced. Yeah, you're on the Pat McAfee show every week for 30 minutes. For someone who's silenced, I sure do hear Aaron talk a lot. You add to it that, he even quoted MLK. I had to throw this out there. He even quoted the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Saying, quote, you have a moral obligation to object to unjust rules and rules that make no sense. So basically, he's comparing the NFL's pretty loose vaccine rules to segregation and racial injustice. Yeah. So he's playing the MLK card. You also had the fact for Aaron Rodgers that has a great season. Puts up numbers comparable to a year ago. And is in all likelihood going to be the MVP. I said a couple weeks ago I'd have Brady as the MVP and Rodgers as a close, very close. I'm not even an Aaron fan, but Rodgers is a close second to Brady. Brady led the NFL in just about every statistical category and only won one fewer game with Aaron, which with much more turmoil. The turmoil that was in Green Bay was created by Aaron. The turmoil in Tampa was created by Antonio Brown, right? I mean, even Levante David talked about that after the Bucs lost yesterday. But I told y'all, we get to the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers is James Harden with a ring. Give credit to Aaron, and he did it with Mike McCarthy, of all people. Long time ago in a season far, far away, 2010, with a great defense, Aaron Rodgers won the Super Bowl over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Since then, he's now 7-9, 2 games below 500. In his career at Lambeau Field, Aaron Rodgers is 1 game over 500. And in this game, in frigid temperatures in Green Bay, Wisconsin, below 10 degrees, in the second half, it became a snowstorm, so the weather is on his side. He's used to playing in cold weather. Don't make the weather excuse. Aaron's used to this, just like Brady was in New England. The defense, which I had serious concerns about, they were great. The 49ers scored 6 offensive points. Did not score an offensive touchdown. Got a turnover in the red zone at the end of the first half on a horrible throw by Jimmy Garoppolo. So the Aaron Rodgers apologist, well, it's the defense. They were great yesterday. No, it's the special teams. And I told you all the special teams was going to be an issue for Green Bay once it was all said and done. And blocked field goal at the end of the first half. And of course, the blocked punt returned for a touchdown that tied the game at 10-all with about 3 minutes left. Aaron Rodgers' team offense also won in time of possession. He also had the healthier roster. Did you see the end of that game with the 49ers? Deebo Samuel constantly limping off the field. George Kittle had needed some assistance off the field. Reports are that Trent Williams, the best left tackle in football, plays for the 49ers. Yeah, he was on crutches after the game. Aaron Rodgers, on the other hand, had Zadarius Smith come back. Zadarius Smith looked great. Kenny Clark, who is one of the better run-stopping defensive tackles in football, he was outstanding. Davante Adams was healthy. He was missing David Bakhtiari. One guy, one key playmaker for the Green Bay Packers was out, David Bakhtiari. And that's just too much for Aaron. Too much for him to handle. Even after that block punt, Aaron got the ball back. 3 minutes left. Tie game. Your house, Lambeau Field. You can win the game with a field goal. You can make people forget about the block punt. Go win the game with the game-winning field goal. After all, you did have one of the better offensives in the NFL this year, right? I mean, you do have Davante Adams and Allen Lazard and Aaron Jones. And on the play of the game, 3rd down and 11. Aaron Rodgers, of course, as we all saw live on Fox, takes a shot for Davante Adams, who is double covered. There was no chance that play had any success of working. I want to show you this. I apologize for the podcast audience. I'll explain it to you the best I can. Here's a freeze frame of that play as the ball is in the air. So you see down on the left side of your screen, you see Davante Adams. You see the guy in the green jersey and yellow pants. That's Davante Adams. He's covered by 2 49ers down the field. Again, this play has zero chance of working. You see that Green Bay Packer right in the middle of the field at about the 46-yard line? That guy's Allen Lazard, who's open by 10 yards. Wide open. And Aaron Rodgers doesn't even look at him. You cannot be an NFL quarterback for 17 years now, 14 years as a starter, and have your mindset about where you're going with the football. You can't do it. That's a rookie quarterback mistake. Allen Lazard, wide open. Nobody near him. I'm going to force it to Davante Adams, which is what he did all night long. Aaron Rodgers went 20 for 29. 18 of those completions, 90% of his completions went to 2 guys, Davante Adams and Aaron Jones. So Aaron Rodgers, being the lackluster leader that he's always been, I've always said he's Jay Cutler with far more talent. He stopped going to Mercedes Lewis. What do we see oftentimes when a guy fumbles or makes a mistake in a football game? What do? They go right back to him, build their confidence back up. Aaron Rodgers never went to Mercedes Lewis the rest of the game. He stopped throwing to Allen Lazard. He stopped throwing to Randall. Matter of fact, he was just forcing it to Randall Cobb at this point, trying to prove a point. So at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers is James Harden in the playoffs with a ring. Because what do we know about James Harden? Has these incredible regular seasons, puts up numbers we've never seen before, and either flames out in the playoffs, chokes, or just disappears. And Aaron Rodgers, he didn't turn the ball over. He just disappeared, faded off into the distance. Had a QBR. Aaron Rodgers, the MVP, Aaron Rodgers, had a QBR of 19. That's your MVP? No touchdowns as well. So, all that offseason drama, all of that in-season drama, all to get bounced in the first round. Or in the Packers' case, the divisional round, because they got a first-round bye. All that just to do what you always do in the postseason. Choke. That's what Aaron Rodgers is in the playoffs. He's not himself. I've been saying this for weeks. What I was concerned about the most with the Packers is they couldn't stop the run all throughout the regular season, and their special teams was bad. Well, the special teams part came back to bite them, right? Running defense was fine. I mean, San Francisco barely ran for 100. By the way, add to the fact, Aaron Rodgers also got a break. Jimmy Garoppolo was awful. Terrible. I mean, you think Aaron was average or even bad? Jimmy Garoppolo was worse. 11 for 19, $131, threw a horrible interception in the red zone. Should have thrown it out of bounds. QBR of 11 and a passer rating of 57. So the opposition's quarterback was garbage. Like, if that was Josh Allen, I mean, the 49ers would have won by 30. They'd have won by 30 at Lambeau Field. He had every opportunity to win that game. But that's who he is. When he goes down, when there's a little adversity, nope, no bueno. Don't want any part of this. Matter of fact, I remember talking about this on my show a year ago, and I don't know if the stat still applies. It very well may. But there was a stat a year ago that showed quarterbacks' winning percentage, all-time NFL quarterbacks, their winning percentage when trailing, when they're down in a game. Tim Tebow had a higher winning percentage when trailing than Aaron Rodgers. Wait, the guy who could not throw, and he couldn't. I mean, Tim Tebow would have games where he completed like 40% of his passes. He was horrible. He was horrible. The guy who could not throw had the weirdest throwing motion that I've seen by at least a lefty at the very least. Had a better winning percentage when trailing. The guy who I've said, makes some of the greatest throws we've ever seen and makes it look effortless. Aaron Rodgers does not handle adversity very well, even after the game. Yeah, I don't really want to be a part of a rebuild, and a lot of guys' contracts are up, and, it's just, I'm like, there he goes again. Blame deflecting. Not my fault. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. So he's always been. Now, what do I think is going to happen with Aaron Rodgers? Frankly, I don't care. But if you had to ask me what it is, I'd say retires. I'd say retires. Because he knows that was his best shot to win a Super Bowl right there. Because what all the Aaron Rodgers defenders and apologists have said for years, well, the defense gives up a lot of points, or, the coach makes a bad decision. I'm saying Matt LaFleur called a good game on Saturday. I've never been a Matt LaFleur fan. But did he make it? Was any of his decisions in that game on Saturday night as bad as the one he made last year in deciding to kick the field goal on 4th and goal with 2 minutes left, down 8, instead of going for it? Of course not. So it's not a Matt LaFleur. It's darn sure not on the defense. People are like, oh, well, he got into field goal range. Guys, they gave up 13. Really, the defense, not the team, the defense gave up 6 points. I mean, what do you want them to be? The 2000 Ravens, the 85 Bears? How much are we asking you to do? The best defensive game the Packers played all season. The opposing quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, was awful. Awful. Didn't matter. Aaron Rodgers, when it's all said and done, sorry, folks, he ain't Tom Brady. Heck, let's compare him to a guy who didn't have much postseason success himself. He's not even Peyton Manning. And Peyton's a guy, I mean, I have a lot of affection for Peyton, as a Tennessee fan. See a Tennessee hoodie right there. But even Peyton Manning, he won 2 Super Bowls. He won more MVPs than Aaron Rodgers. Won more playoff games than Aaron Rodgers. So, did Saturday night's game shock me at all? It shocked me that the 49ers didn't win by more than they did. Blame, the majority of the blame, goes on number 12, Mr. Immunized. Well, as somebody who I don't quote often on this show said, Skip Bayless, hey, he's immunized from the playoffs. He's certainly immunized from the Super Bowl yet again. Yet again. All righty, after that, let's got a lot of comments here. Let's see. Back to the Tampa Bay Rams topic. Grady said, on the money with that. If Tampa isn't injured, odds are they might have edged the Rams out. That was what scared me about Tampa. You had Godwin out. You had, at least for a while there, you had Shaq Barrett and Levante David were out. They played yesterday. I thought Levante David played really well. That guy's been great for so long and doesn't get enough credit for how good he is. Levante David is now just getting credit for how great a player he is now that he's playing with the winning team. But he's been great for a long time, even with those terrible Tampa Bay teams that he played with. But yeah, I mean, I think if Chris Godwin's there, that changes the whole dynamic. You had Brashad Perriman who was out. You had Ronald Jones who was out. Obviously, we all know what happened with Antonio Brown. So I think that's what it came down to. Let's see. Grady said, as Skip Bayless once said about LeBron, he came up smaller than mini-me. Today I said the same thing. Aaron Rodgers came up small than a mini-me. You're dang right. I'm not going to put up the comment from the Cowboys Camp fan because now I love those guys' show, but this is a family show. Grady says, not defending his performance in the postseason, but name an active quarterback with more than one Super Bowl ring. I can only think of two, Brady or Big Ben. It's hard to win multiple Super Bowls. I do agree he came up small. The man should have at least one more, though. And that's the thing. Talent alone does not win you a championship. We know that. It doesn't. I mean, that's what separates Mahomes from Aaron Rodgers. Talent-wise, we can argue all day about who's more talented. Both have monster arms. Both can make plays outside the pocket. Both are deadly accurate. The difference is Mahomes is A, he's better than the playoffs. By the way, how about this stat? Patrick Mahomes has won as many playoff games since he came into the NFL, since he became a starter in 2018. So since 2018, Patrick Mahomes has just as many playoff wins as Aaron Rodgers has in the last 11 seasons. But anyways, as far as Pat, what separates him and Aaron? Pat galvanizes the locker room. He's a leader, and he's coachable. Aaron is neither. Never has been. So at age 38, he's not going to change that. Grady says, he's a Patriots fan, so I'm sure he has affection for this guy. He says, don't disrespect Jimmy Jesus, not Jimmy G, Jimmy Jesus like that. Man is a two-time Super Bowl champion more than Rodgers. He got them rings because of the GOAT. You know that, but I know you're being facetious. I don't care what Rodgers does. Or he said, I don't know what Rodgers does. Sorry. I don't know what Rodgers does, but if he has any courage, he'll take a pay cut and run it back with Green Bay. That's what he should do. And that's the thing. I think he's more likely to stay in Green Bay than leave. I know some of these reporters have said he's more likely to leave than to stay. But I think if you're Aaron Rodgers, you got to look and say, well, the defense was, of course, he's not exactly one that's, accountable, as I talked about. But he's got to look at it and say, well, the defense was outstanding. I've got Devontae. If I stay, Devontae Adams stays. That's why Devontae Adams didn't sign an extension with Green Bay. That's why he's going to be a free agent in a few weeks, because he said, I'm not staying in Green Bay if I don't have a superstar quarterback throwing the ball to me. Like, that's why he's probably going to go to the Raiders if Aaron retires or leaves. At least that's where I think he's going to go. That's where my man P Star, shout out to him, Patrick, said he thinks he's going to the Raiders too. I agree. But he'd have to look at it and say, okay, I play in the worst division in football. We ridicule the NFC East, and we should, but Dallas and Philly made the playoffs at least. I mean, the NFC North, you got Minnesota, Detroit, and Chicago. That's 6 games that should all be automatic dubs for the Packers. But you have a bad division. You have a defense that played great against San Francisco. You have a great number one, the best receiver in football probably, a great offensive line, the deepest O-line in the league. You've got 2 solid running backs in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon's still on a rookie deal, so he's still got plenty of gas in that tank. So, I mean, if Aaron could go to Denver, but even in Denver, he'd be going there, and that's a way tougher division. You go from playing Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields, and Jared Goff twice a year to playing Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Derek Carr twice a year. Yeah, a little difference, right? So, I mean, you could even say Tennessee with the Titans, and I'm about to get in the Titans and Bengals in just a second because what a game that was to start divisional weekend. We had no idea what we were in for, but I don't think that's a possibility either, because that's one thing too that Titans players talked about. Like, they love Mike Vrabel, but they've said there's sort of a fear in that locker room for Mike Vrabel. How do you think he'd get along with Aaron Rodgers? I would not want to see how that movie turned out. I mean, that's when people say, well, if Aaron, like, I remember when people said for years, if Aaron Rodgers was in New England, if he was in Tom Brady's spots, he would have won more Super Bowls than Brady because he's more talented. And I always laughed at that notion because, like I just mentioned, talent alone does not win Super Bowls. That's been evidenced. But also, how do you think Brady was driven to his breaking point with Belichick 20 years in. And Brady's the most coachable, we've found out now in Tampa, likable, great teammate, outstanding A-plus leader. And eventually, he couldn't stand Belichick anymore. How do you think that dynamic works with Aaron, who, if you say one thing that offends him, he'll never talk to you again? No, he would not have won 6 championships, and he darn sure would not have won more than 6 championships if he's in Brady's position. No way. Not in a million years. Not on Earth, at least. Maybe on Mars or Saturn, but not on Earth. But man, what a weekend! All right, so let's start, or let's talk about the Titans and Bengals game. The one that kicked off the weekend. What was a great game. A great game in a beautiful city, Nashville, Tennessee. Great people, great city, great food and entertainment. I mean, Nashville is one of the best cities in America as far as I'm concerned. And now one thing I will have to say, excuse me, is that, to be fair, it isn't like the Titans fan base is thought of as like a Bills Mafia or like Chiefs fans or Packers fans or Steelers fans or 49ers fans. Like, to be fair, that's one thing I hate to criticize fans. I hate it. But Titans fans, it's not like it's a huge home field advantage. I mean, they're loyal fans. I'm not going to like diss them at all. It's just not a huge home field advantage the way those other stadiums are. I mean, San Francisco 49ers fans took over SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles 3 weeks ago. And it's funny, the people in Los Angeles are trying to make sure that they don't get back into the stadium and take it over like they did in that regular season finale, or certainly against the Cowboys a week later. So they're trying to adjust to that. But okay, hold on. All right, so I've got, I wouldn't say it's breaking news, but I've got a new quote from Tom Brady that just came in. But I'll get to that a little later when I talk about his future. Cincinnati and Tennessee. So what that game, I mean, that is like the perfect football dictionary definition of the difference between a loaded team that didn't make it because they don't have a great quarterback and a very good team that is elevated and won because they have a superstar quarterback, of course, that being Joe Burrow. Starting on the Tennessee side of things, that's brutal. That's a brutal loss. Listen, Tennessee's going to be back next year because Houston's very much in a rebuild. Jacksonville, very much in a rebuild. Indianapolis has a loaded roster, a top 5 roster in the NFL. What are they going to do at quarterback? And if Carson Wentz stays there, Tennessee's winning that division again. But this is really disheartening if you're a Titans fan because you've got Ryan Tannehill, you've got Derrick Henry, King Henry, the best running back in football when healthy. And you could tell yesterday on Saturday, he was not himself. He was not himself on that football field on Saturday night. The defense took a massive step forward. And you have Mike Vrabel, who, in my opinion, should be coach of the year, considering what he did with a beat-up roster and especially against great playoff teams, which the Titans played every other week. And, coming into this weekend, they were, I threw out the stat a million times. They were 4-0 against teams that were still alive in the playoffs. Well, now 4-1, which the one came in the playoffs, which is, really tough for them. And for Tennessee also, you went out and got Julio Jones, who draws, and Julio wasn't as productive in Tennessee as he was in Atlanta, but he's still going to draw some attention on that side of the field that he's on, which opens it up more for the better receiver, A.J. Brown, who had a huge game on Saturday, who had a great season. And so just in general, this is tough for Tennessee because you got the 1 seed. The road to the Super Bowl went through Nashville, and you gave it away against an inferior roster. That's tough. So, and for Ryan Tannehill, I wouldn't say a Ryan Tannehill defender, but I've always said he's good enough to get you to the playoffs. And hey, 2 years ago, He helped you. He didn't lead you. Derrick Henry led you, but he helped you get to the AFC Championship game where they ultimately lost to the Chiefs. But the tough part about Saturday, yeah, you see Ryan Tannehill threw 3 interceptions, but all 3 came in really, really bad spots. Because obviously he throws a pick on the first play of the game. Yeah, that. It felt like Tennessee never, even though they tied the game at 16, they never really fully built that confidence back that we saw them have in so many games this season. The second interception was a killer, man, because you're driving, you've got it, you got a long run by Foreman all the way down into the Bengals red zone, and then all of a sudden Ryan Tannehill has a pass tipped by Mike Hilton, intercepted, and the Titans come up empty-handed down 2 scores. I believe it was 19-9, or I'm sorry, 16-6 at that point. So that's a really tough one for Tennessee to swallow. And then the last interception, of course, as we all know, he's trying to force it into a tight window. The ball gets tipped in the air, gets intercepted. One play later, Joe Burrow hits Jamar Chase wide open on the right sideline. And a couple plays later, Evan McPherson, who's got ice water running through his veins, kicks the game-winning field goal, and the Cincinnati Bengals, I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth, are in the AFC Championship game. And so, really, Ryan Tannehill's 3 interceptions cost, let's do the math here. Okay, so it cost the Titans possibly 13 points. Because the first interception he threw, Cincinnati gets a field goal to start the game. The second pick he throws, now Cincinnati punted on that following drive, but Tennessee was marching. They have momentum. They're probably going to score there. So that's 7 points. That adds to 10 points. And of course, the last interception thrown, that's 3 points in favor of the Bengals. So that's, kicking the game-winning field goal. So that's a 13-point swing. So you could say the Titans, certainly the defense, but the Titans as a whole played well enough to win that game. Ryan Tannehill didn't. And people are kind of, I saw a lot of people blaming Derrick Henry. Listen, Derrick Henry hasn't played in 2 months. He had a metal plate in his foot. They say you can get in shape as much as you want. You can run sprints and suicides and this and that. But to get in football shape, you know what you got to do? You got to play football. And so that's his first game back in 2 months. So I was different from a lot of people. I wasn't expecting a ton from Derrick Henry. I was expecting probably a little more than what he gave you. I was expecting probably, 90, 95 yards, a touchdown. He did get 1 touchdown. But that's kind of where I was at with King Henry. But I don't think a ton of blame goes on him, considering how much time he missed. On the other side for the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm telling you, I know I just said it like a few minutes ago, but man, does it go to show you, if you have that guy, I'm not talking about a guy or the guy, that guy being Joey Burrow, you can go as far as you want. And obviously drafting Jamar Chase in the first round, a move that I criticized, not because I didn't think Jamar Chase was going to be successful. I loved Jamar Chase coming out of LSU. My thing is you got to protect Burrow. I'll get to that in a second. But you've got the college connection, excuse me, Burrow to Chase, and it's uncoverable. That's what's going to give Kansas City problems next week. It gave them problems just a month ago when they played. So I think for Cincinnati, you've got the weapons. You've got Higgins, obviously, who made some big plays yesterday. You've got Joe Mixon, who scored a touchdown. So, and defensively, obviously you got the Ryan Tannehill 3 interceptions. That helps. But I thought Cincinnati's defense did a good pressure throughout the game. Did a good job throughout the game getting pressure on Ryan Tannehill, in some cases forcing those picks. Certainly the second one that was tipped on the screen. So, but the issue for Cincinnati and Bengals fans, Lord, they're like Dolphins fans clinging to Dolphins fans cling to Tua, and they've been killing me on social media as of late saying, no, you're wrong about Tua. They should have kept Flores, whatever. Same with Cincinnati. They're clinging to that offensive line saying, oh, the offensive line is as bad as you say it is. No, you're probably right. It's worse than I thought it was. It's worse. Joe Burrow was sacked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, which ties an NFL playoff record. 9 times. And he won the game. So, and I said this early this season in October, and I've said it throughout the season, as Joe Burrow has just gotten better and better and better game in and game out. Do not let him become the next Andrew Luck. Because, people forget Andrew Luck got the Colts to an AFC Championship game where, of course, they ran into this team called the New England Patriots and they lost 45-7. But Andrew Luck did get them there. And Joe Burrow, we talk about, these are the 2 best teams left in the conference. You could say Kansas City's the best team in the conference, and I probably won't argue with you. Cincinnati is not the second best team left in the AFC. Tennessee's much better than Cincinnati. But the gap between Burrow and Tannehill, that decided it. I'm telling you, these next 2 off seasons, particularly this one, Bengals front office, you better not screw this up. You have got to give this guy protection. I mean, it was like every play, even when they were, even when they had a tight end in the formation to block, they had, basically 6 offensive linemen. They're constantly getting pressure left, right. The second Burrow's taking those snaps, a Titan is coming in the backfield. And the fact that despite that, he still threw for almost 350. He completed, what was that? Completed 76% of his passes. He obviously threw the interception. That was a close call. And had a passer rating of 93. How they gave him a QBR of 28 is beyond me. Okay, Joe Burrow getting a 28 QBR is a crime. I don't know how that could be the case, but that was outstanding on the part of number 9 for the Cincinnati Bengals. Distributing it to different guys, spreading the ball over the field, playing point guard basically with, I mean, no protection, none. And this was the case in the regular season, as I said it would be. It's a horrible offensive line. Burrow was sacked more than any quarterback in the NFL during the regular season. During the postseason, he sacked more in one game than any quarterback has ever been sacked in an NFL playoff game. So you got to address, listen, I don't know if Cincinnati can go to Kansas City and win. Now, I hate the line. The Vegas line is like Kansas City minus 7. I don't know if I like that line. Certainly that will not be featured on if I were a betting man next week. But I'm telling you, man, if Cincinnati goes to Arrowhead and wins, gosh, that would be incredible. But for the Bengals front office, your secondary isn't great. You can address that now. You got to the AFC Championship game with a bad secondary, or at least an average secondary. It's not bad. It's average. But you got to protect your franchise guy. I mean, the Bengals have never had a franchise changer in the history of their franchise like Joe Burrow. We know how quarterbacks go. It changes how people look at you. It changes how you look at yourself as an NFL franchise. The Titans have their act together. Head coach, outstanding. Running back, best in the league. Great offensive line. Great receivers. Great defense, especially great defensive line. Excellent secondary. But they don't have Joe Burrow. That was the difference. Oftentimes, as I talk about ad nauseum on my show when I make my predictions, anytime it's evenly matched, I usually go with the team that's got the better quarterback. Or not evenly matched, but I'm kind of like, okay, one team is a little better than the other. Certainly is a better run franchise, but if they don't have a franchise quarterback, I'm telling you, there's only so far you can go. I mean, even with the San Francisco 49ers, I mean, they're, Jimmy G's like in the class project where he's just his name's on the list of participants, but he really didn't do much. Not the case in Cincinnati. Like, Joe Burrow's not even leading the class project. He and Jamar Chase are like doing the class project by themselves. Unbelievable. Credit to the Bengals. Credit to Joe Burrow. Protect that man. Shore up that offensive line. It is horrible. Got to shore it up. Okay, got some comments here. All right. Grady says, I get the Ryan Tannehill hate for that game, but dude is the right quarterback for that team. Not many better options out there. He's solid, brings stability to the team. Yep, the Colts lost to America's team, the New England Patriots. See why? Now, why'd you have to do that, Gray? Why'd you have to do that? Yeah, but here's the reason. I've always said this is the reason the Cowboys are America's team. And I didn't think I'd be talking much Cowboys today, but here we go. Reason the Cowboys are America's team. Well, A, because they were dubbed that in the 70s on an old NFL Films highlight of the 1970s Cowboys led by Captain America himself, Roger Staubach, and in my opinion, one of the 5 greatest coaches ever, Tom Landry. Dallas Cowboys are America's team because you either love the Cowboys or you despise or hate the Cowboys. There's not that many people that are in between. I mean, with the New England Patriots now that Tom Brady's gone, still people that hate the Patriots still because of their 2 decades of dominance. And of course, fans like yourself, Patriots Nation, loves the team. But they do have some more in-between people now because they are kind of just another team, just another really good team now instead of dynastic. If you want to say they're America's team because of the success, be my guest. Okay, because you could say that. Steelers fans could say that because that's the 2 teams with the most Super Bowl championships of anybody. But back to your Ryan Tannehill thing. I mean, that's the thing. That's what I've always liked about Tannehill. He moves around well. His accuracy comes and goes. You know, after all, he was a receiver for a while there in college at Texas A&M. But I mean, I like him. I've always liked Tannehill. I like him. I think you put him in Tennessee, and it completely turned his career around. You know, the poor guy had Adam Gase for years in Miami. So I just don't know if he's the guy that can win a Super Bowl in Tennessee. Maybe he can, but things got to be absolutely perfect. I mean, that game really showed you nothing went Burrow's way in regards to protection-wise. Everything went Tannehill's way, right? They got the turnover. Derrick Henry ran for a touchdown. You know, A.J. Brown went for like $150-ish. Like you got to win that game. You're the 1 seed. By the way, this is the first time in 11 seasons. Yeah, 11 seasons that the 2 number 1 seeds, both the AFC and the NFC, lost their first playoff game, which I think the Falcons lost in 2010 as the number 1 seed to the Green Bay Packers, who went on to win the Super Bowl. And the New England Patriots, the 1 seed, lost to their hated division rival, I believe they were the 6 seed, New York Jets. The 5 seed, the 6 seed. Back to my America's team comment. Grady says, Pats aren't that now, but during the Brady era, I actually seriously think they were America's team. As I say, Brady is America's QB, most polarizing by far. Yeah. But I would say, I think people kind of admire Brady nowadays because he's shown a better side of himself. I mean, you know, the poor guy got drunk at the parade last year in Tampa. My man, John Rivera, is in the comments. He says, what's up, my guy? What is up, John? I gave your Jets a shout out just now. Hope you caught that. I don't do that much on this show because, I mean, frankly, there's not really much of a reason to give the Jets shout outs, but hey, I will where I can. Shout out your guy, Mark Sanchez and Rex Ryan. But let me go into my last topic because this has been one of much discussion over the past 24 hours, certainly since yesterday morning when Adam Schefter came out and said Tom is mulling his future. Like, didn't say, consider retirement or anything like that, but he's mulling his future. And people are speculating, okay, was that Tom Brady's last game ever yesterday? Was it? Is this the last? We'll see. And so my thing is this. I'll get into my take after I pull up this tweet. This was put out almost 20 minutes ago by Rick Stroud on Twitter. So Tom Brady was on his Let's Go podcast. This is, this just came in. Tom Brady was on his Let's Go podcast that he does with Jim Gray. And talking about his future, he said, quote, I said this a few years ago. It's what relationships are all about. It's not always what I want. It's what we want as a family. And I'm going to spend a lot of time with them and figure out in the future what's next. Good on you, Grady, for pointing that out again earlier in the show when you were talking about, do I think Brady's going to retire? And I'll give my opinion on that here in a second. But I agree. It is going to come down to, what does he want to do? What does his family want to do? Because I don't think Tom is ever going to lose that drive. I don't think Tom is ever going to lose that desire to compete and win at the highest level. I mean, folks, the man at 44 years old led the league in touchdown passes, in completions, and in yards. Matter of fact, he threw for the third most yards in a single season in the history of the National Football League. It got so ridiculous that time and time again I played this soundbite.
Can Tom Brady play until 50 years old? Wow.
Over and over. I mean, the way he's playing, I've always said, I say no, but I don't think it's out of the question. But what it comes down to is this. As Tom pointed out, as you, a Patriots fan, Grady Edwards pointed out in the comments, his kids are getting older. He is reaching sort of the middle of his life, which, he'll probably live to be like 110, the way he takes care of his body. But you get what I'm saying. He's reaching a stage in life where I want to be there for my kids. I've missed a lot. Maybe, and I don't want to, psychoanalyze Tom Brady, but maybe there's a little bit of guilt. Not for putting his heart and soul into football, because he's never going to regret that. But maybe I missed a soccer game, or maybe my oldest son, maybe he wants to play football like me. And I'd like to be there for that. Or maybe I'd just like to spend some more time with my wife, Giselle. So the family aspect of it factors in drastically. Absolutely. And I think Tom all but confirmed it right there. That's what's going to drive the decision when it's all said and done. Okay, here's what I think is going to happen. Short answer, was yesterday Tom Brady's last game? Short answer, no. But I think what he's going to do is the exact same thing that Drew Brees did 2 years ago. Because remember, there was speculation after the Saints lost to the Vikings in the playoffs at home, and there was speculation by Jay Glazer, by Schefter, Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network. Was that Drew Brees' last game? And Drew, about a month or two later, came out and said, after considering it, talk with my family, one more season. I think that's what Tom Brady's going to put out. I think he's going to drag this into early March, right before free agency, because he's going to want to do it before free agency so he can let the Tampa Bay Bucs know, so they can sort of strategize what they want to do in the offseason. But I think he drags it out into March. Maybe he puts a social media post. Maybe he puts like a family statement, a tweet, just a regular individual statement through his agent. Regardless of how he does it, I think Tom Brady in about, today's January 24th, so a month and a half. One more season. Do like Derek Jeter did in 2014. Do what Kobe did in 2016. One more. One last hurrah. One last dance. So I think Tom Brady returns next year. I think, he's always talked about, I want to play to 45. The 50 thing has kind of been like jokingly floated around. But I think he's like, okay, kids are getting older. I'm getting to a stage in life where this is the prime. This is the prime of an individual's life. I want to enjoy it. I think he retires after next season. He gives it one more go, one last hurrah, and Tom Brady retires at the end of the 2022 football season. That's what I think happens. I don't have any sourcing on that. That's what I think is going to happen. John says, I really think it's 50-50. I don't really discount that. I mean, I think he does talk about it with his family. Would I be shocked if he retires? Probably shocked at the enormity of it, of Tom Brady retiring. But after what's come out in the last, 24 to 36 hours, no, I wouldn't be like just, oh my gosh, I can't believe it wouldn't be like that. I mean, you think about it too. Tom has has talked about, anytime the last like 4 seasons or so, 4 or 5 seasons, they ask at the end of every year, more times than not, it's after a Super Bowl. They asked Tom, are you coming back next year? He's like, oh yeah. Like after they, remember he won the Super Bowl last year in Tampa, and he's up on the podium. He's holding the Lombardi trophy. His daughter is standing next to him, and Jim Nantz is interviewing him. And Jim Nantz says, you coming back for more football next year, Tom? And Tom's like, oh yeah, we're coming back. It was like, okay, yeah, there's no question. He's coming back next year. This year, I'll think about it. Like, that's a pretty drastic turn from just a year ago saying, oh, yeah, duh. Why even ask me that? Of course I'm coming back. That matters. And Grady says, does Gronk come back? Your thoughts? I think Gronk stays as long as Tom stays, to be honest with you. I really do. Maybe Gronk will want to retire so that it's like Tom only retiring. Maybe that factors in a little bit. But I think Gronk stayed fairly healthy. He was beat up a little earlier this season, but he got healthy. He stayed healthy the rest of the regular season. He's not as beat up now as he was in New England, at least throughout an individual season. So I do think if Tom comes back next year, it's kind of like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. If Tom comes back next year, I also think Gronk comes back. That's my thoughts. And plus, maybe secretly Tom's hoping like New England gets to the Super Bowl so he can get how crazy would that be? Like if Tom Brady's last game of his entire NFL career, his entire football life, he beat Bill Belichick to win the Super Bowl. Like that would be maybe that happens. Would that not be the greatest story in the history of sports? And Grady says he agrees with my Gronk take. Agreed, their fates are tied. And he says might be a Pro Bowl alternate this year, to be honest. I'm assuming you're talking about Gronk because Brady already made the Pro Bowl. I would especially think Brady would play in the Pro Bowl, knowing that will in all likelihood be his last Pro Bowl, just because, I don't know how long it's been since Tom's been in one of those, but he'll want to play in it. It's in Vegas. You got the Pro Bowl captains coming back this year, like Luke Kuechly and Jason Witten and guys like that. And so he'll come back. He'll play the Pro Bowl this year. He'll play next year, try and go win a Super Bowl. And I think that's what's going to be the case with Tom Brady. All righty. Wow. What a show. Over an hour and a half. And I got to admit, probably could have dragged it longer. Than I did. But, as the title of this show says, greatest weekend in NFL history. Seriously. The games starting with Cincinnati and Tennessee literally got better as they went on. They got better. All 4 games were won on a walk-off. The first 3, a walk-off field goal by Evan McPherson, Robbie Gould, and Matt Gay. And then to cap off divisional weekend, shocker, Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce, back right corner of the end zone, ball game, good night. If the conference championship games top that, I don't even know what to say. If the conference championship, if either of them top that, I don't even know what I'm going to say. But it goes to show you the gap between the best teams in the league and even the really good teams like, say, Cincinnati. It ain't as big as we think it is. But this is about as wide open a season as it's ever been in the National Football League. What a year. And we still got 3 games left. I don't count the Pro Bowl. Pro Bowl don't count. Pro Bowl does not count. We got 2 games next week. And then in 20 days' time, the granddaddy of them all, Super Bowl 56. Oh, this is going to be awesome. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. I appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving Up on Thursday, as always, at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. If you've been listening to the Carving Up podcast, we appreciate that. You've been listening on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and on Anchor. So, and also while you're on YouTube, be sure to like, share, comment, help the channel grow exponentially. So, hope everybody has a great week. I don't know how we're going to top, I don't know how Thursday's show is going to top today's show, but you never know. It's sports. You never know. That's what makes sports so great. So, see y'all in 72 hours. Have a great week. Continue to stay safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. I'm out of here. See ya.
Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.